It's just a dot, barely a pixel on the canvas of space. A floating orb adrift in the infinite dark ocean of the cosmos. This is Earth, the pale blue dot, the only home we have ever known. Imagine, for a moment, you are on the edge of the solar system, past Neptune, past Pluto, beyond the reach of our sun's warmth, floating aboard a spacecraft that's been sailing through space since before many of us were born. And as it turns to take one last picture of home, something appears. A speck, suspended in a beam of scattered sunlight. Tiny, fragile, and almost forgettable. That's what Voyager once saw in 1990. At over 6 billion kilometers away, all of Earth, every soul, every mountain, every tear and triumph, reduced to a single, trembling pixel. That is here, that is home, that is us, Carl Sagan once said. And he was right. Because this dot, this floating miracle, holds everything we have ever loved, feared, built, broken, sung, and saved. Think of all the wars ever fought, all the kings crowned, all the scientists, artists, lovers, all the ancient gods once prayed to, the revolutions, the dreams, the heartbreaks, all happened here on this dot. No stage lights, no cosmic applause, just Earth, quietly orbiting a star no one else in the galaxy notices. And yet, here we are, here breath and bone, stardust and story. Isn't it strange how something so grand can feel so invisible in the vastness of space? The universe doesn't care about our borders, or our gold, or even our names. But still, we matter because we know how to care, we feel, we imagine, we remember, and in that lies something miraculous. The odds were impossible. A planet forming not too close, not too far from a star, just the right distance for water to remain liquid, a moon to stabilize our tilt, a magnetic field to shield us, oceans to cradle life, and somehow life did begin. There are over 200 billion stars in our galaxy alone, trillions of planets, and yet none we have found are quite like this one. None shimmer with blues, greens, and golds like Earth. None carry whispers of Mozart, or laughter, or lullabies in a mother tongue. None hold both volcanoes and violins. Earth is an oasis, a cosmic fluke, a fragile marvel that somehow endures. We tend to take it for granted, because it's always been here, but if we zoom out, far enough, we see it for what it truly is. Earth is a rare, breathtaking miracle, dancing in darkness. Mind you, Earth didn't start out this way. It wasn't always gentle, or blue, or calm. Long before the trees, before the oceans, before the idea of life even flickered, Earth was forged in fire. To understand just how special this fragile world is, we have to travel back. Back to chaos, back to collision, and back to the birth of our world. From the ashes of exploding stars, long before Earth was a name, before oceans curled along coastlines, before blue skies, or breath, or even the whisper of life, there was only chaos. Space wasn't quiet. It was loud, violent, and unforgiving. Not with sound, but with motion. With gravity and flame and time pulling matter into endless collisions. And somewhere in that endless dust and darkness, a star was being born. That's our Sunday. The furnace that would one day warm a fragile world began as a swirling cloud of hydrogen, spinning, collapsing, igniting. It started in the depths of a vast molecular cloud, an ancient nebula filled with gas and scattered debris from a long-dead star. Then, something shifted. Perhaps a nearby star exploded, sending shockwaves through the cloud. Or maybe gravity reached a tipping point, a slow collapse that suddenly could not be stopped. The cloud twisted and spun, and gravity pulled tighter, faster and hotter. At the center, atoms slammed into each other so hard. They fused, and in that moment the sun lit up, not with a spark, but with fusion. a nuclear inferno that's burned for over 4.5 billion years. Around that newborn star was a leftover storm, a spiraling disk of dust, gas, and rock. To the eye, it might have looked like smoke circling a flame, but inside that haze, planets were forming. Tiny particles, no bigger than grains of sand, began to stick together. Static at first, then mass, then gravity. Clumps grew, clumps collided, and collisions grew violent. It was a cosmic demolition derby. Some rocks shattered, others fused. And over millions of years, planets began to emerge. One of them would become our Earth. If you had seen Earth in those early days, you wouldn't recognize her. She wasn't blue, she wasn't peaceful, she was hell. A molten world, glowing red with heat, seas of lava instead of oceans, toxic gases instead of air, volcanoes bursting through newborn crust, and everywhere was fire. Asteroids slammed into her surface like cosmic bullets. Mountains rose and fell in hours. It was a planet under construction and under siege. But it wasn't lifeless. Not yet. These collisions were not just destruction, they were ingredients, mixing the raw materials of what would someday become life. Then, it happened. The most important crash in Earth's early story. A rogue planet, roughly the size of Mars, came barreling through the young solar system. Its name was Theia. It didn't miss. Theia struck Earth with unimaginable force. It was like two worlds becoming one. The impact vaporized oceans of rocks, shattered Earth's crust, and launched debris into orbit. But from that wreckage, something beautiful emerged. The pieces began to gather, to swirl, to dance, and slowly they formed a companion. The moon, our silent twin, our nightlight and our anchor. Without it, tides would not rise, the earth might wobble out of control, seasons could vanish, and life, as we know it, may have never stood a chance. Out of destruction came balance. The chaos began to quit. The collisions slowed, the lava cooled, and Earth grew a beautiful crust we now call sky. The solar system was no longer a battleground. It was becoming a neighborhood. Earth, still hot at the core, began to breathe, but she wasn't done transforming. Now came water, the great sculptor, the bringer of life. Imagine standing on the surface of early Earth, but you can't, because you wouldn't survive more than a second. The sky is a suffocating haze of carbon dioxide and sulfur. The ground is not soil and not rocks, but rivers of lava. Volcanoes scream fire into the sky. There is no blue, no green, no air to breathe, only heat and fury. This was Earth, 4 billion years ago, still reeling from birth, still angry from being born. The planet spun faster back then. A single day may have lasted just 6 hours. The moon hung enormous in the sky, glowing red from the heat of its own violent creation. Everything was raw and dangerous, and yet the seeds of change were falling literally from space. Water did not start here. The early Earth was far too hot for oceans, too chaotic to hold delicate molecules together, and yet water found a way, carried on the backs of ancient travelers, comets, icy asteroids, frozen messengers from the outer solar system. Billions of them bombarded Earth in the planet's early years, each one crashing, melting, evaporating, and eventually condensing. Drop by drop, steam began to rise, vapor formed in the sky, and then came the first rain. For thousands, or maybe millions of years, it rained, not in storms like we know today, not in occasional bursts, but a relentless and endless downpour. Let us know in the comment section where you are watching from. Imagine it, a world with no dry land, where every raindrop hisses against scalding rock, steam rising so thick it blots out the sky. The earth was cooling. Oceans were not filled in a day. They were carved by time, by gravity, and by patience. The water found cracks. It pooled in low basins, It sculpted valleys, smoothed mountains. The rain didn't just fall, it shaped, and slowly, after billions of years in fire, Earth began to wear blue. The transformation was profound. The atmosphere changed. Volcanoes still roared, but now clouds formed. Lightning danced across the skies, energy crackling through water-laden air. And down below, the planet calmed. Vast oceans covered most of the globe. Beneath them, heat still lingered. Earth's interior still churned with molten fire. But above, the surface grew still. No plants yet, no fishes, no birds in the sky. But something stirred beneath the waves. In the deep, the real magic was about to begin. Because water wasn't the end of the journey, it was the beginning. Oceans didn't just cool the earth, they gave it memory, a place for molecules to mingle, to try, to fail, and to become more. Life was on the verge of its first breath. And so Earth, this once violent ball of fire, now cradled something tender and potential. Deep beneath the oceans, where sunlight never touched, life stirred for the very first time. Before birds flew, before dinosaurs walked, before trees reached toward the sky, life existed, but not in the world we know. It lived in the deep, where the ocean is black as space, where the pressure can crush submarines, where sunlight has never dared to shine. Here in a world of silence and shadows, life took its first breath, not with lungs, but with chemistry, heat, minerals, and time. Along the ocean floor, cracks in the Earth's crust leak heat from the molten core. These are called hydrothermal vents, black chimneys spewing boiling minerals into near-freezing depths. They are toxic, alien, utterly hostile, and yet, here life began. Inside these scalding plumes, the ingredients for life collided. Carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, and energy. They didn't need sunlight, they didn't need oxygen. All they needed was each other. It began with chemistry, molecules clumping together, held by luck, and eventually by purpose. They formed chains, membranes, and patterns. Then something miraculous happened. One of them copied itself. It wasn't alive, not yet, but it could make more of itself. That was the spark. The first replication. The first moment where the universe looked back at itself. For billions of years, Earth was ruled by things too small to see, tiny single-celled, unimaginable by today's standards of complexity, but they were alive, and they were powerful. They are microbes fed on the chemicals of the deep. They adapted, and they diversified. They were the first innovators. They learned how to eat rock, metal, sulfur, and then some figured out a new trick. They learned to capture sunlight. Cyanobacteria, tiny blue-green architects of everything that would follow. They were photosynthetic, meaning they fed themselves with light. But that wasn't the amazing part. When they fed, they exhaled oxygen. Yes, oxygen. That invisible gas that you and I need every second of every day was once a deadly poison to the life that came before. And yet, cyanobacteria didn't stop. They kept breathing it out, filling the oceans, changing the atmosphere, drop by drop, breath by breath, and they changed the world. At first, the oxygen had nowhere to go. It reacted with iron in the oceans, rusting the sea red, but eventually, the oceans couldn't hold it anymore, and so oxygen began to rise into the skies. What followed was one of Earth's most dramatic turning points, a global extinction. The same gas that fuels us wiped out most of the life that came before. It was an apocalypse, wrapped in progress. But from this chaos, again came something new. Life adapted. New organisms evolved to use oxygen, breathing it in, powering new kinds of cells and leading to complexity. Without cyanobacteria, you wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. Nothing that breathes, sings, or dreams would exist. These tiny organisms, unseen and unappreciated, laid the foundation for every animal, every forest, and every civilization to come. They built the air, they shaped the oceans, they carved the path forward. They are the quiet heroes of life, proof that even the smallest can change everything. And then, after eons of silent, invisible life, something extraordinary happened. Life got loud, the seas filled with motion, eyes opened, shells formed, predators hunted. It was an explosion of shape, color, survival, and awe. For billions of years, life had existed in silence, tiny, simple, and invisible. But then, the silence ended. About 540 million years ago, something happened in the oceans of Earth. Something sudden, something spectacular. It was a revolution, not of machines, but of forms. The Cambrian explosion. In just a few million years, a blink in geological time, life diversified in ways never seen before. Eyes, legs, fangs, and armor. It was no longer just about survival. It was about outsmarting death. And for the first time, the oceans became a battlefield. In this strange new world, every creature was an invention. Some evolved hard shells to protect. Some grew eyes to see. Some evolved speed to chase. Others developed spikes, poisons, and camouflages. The arms race of life had begun. The rules were simple: adapt or vanish. Earth's oceans, once calm and microbial, now teemed with conflict and color. Someone left the water. No grand exit, just a quiet, clumsy shuffle. Fins became limbs. Gills became lungs, and scales adapted to dry air. It was an evolutionary gamble. The air was harsh and the sun was unforgiving, but the land was open. And once life found footing on shore, there was no turning back. Plants were the first to rise. Mosses, ferns, then trees taller than buildings. Forests unlike anything we know today, damp, dark, and oxygen-rich. That oxygen made things big. Insects the size of eagles, centipedes longer than a man, dragonflies with wingspans wider than your outstretched arms. This was the Carboniferous, when Earth's breath was thick with growth and giants ruled the air. As plants rose higher and insects grew larger, a new kind of creature emerged. One that didn't need to return to water to lay its eggs. One that could roam freely without limits. That's reptiles. They conquered the land. They laid their eggs on dry earth. They grew scales, claws, and teeths. And then they got bigger and bolder. Over time, these creatures would evolve into something more, something legendary. Then came the Titans, dinosaurs, masters of the Mesozoic era. For over 160 million years, longer than mammals have even existed, dinosaurs ruled this planet. Some were the size of buses, others nimble as wolves. Some soared, some swam, some hunted. Others grazed in herds that shook the earth. There were gentle giants and vicious predators, but what they all shared was success. Dinosaurs were not failures. They were not dumb brutes. They were perfectly evolved for their world. They lived longer than we have, by a wide margin. Their bones tell stories of mothers nesting, of migrations, of ecosystems more complex than we ever imagined. Earth was a masterpiece of biology. From the ocean floor to mountain peaks, life had written a symphony, and at its crescendo stood the dinosaurs. But nothing, not even giants, lasts forever. One day, the sky went dark, not for hours, but for years. An asteroid the size of a city came from space. What followed was extinction, a reset, an ending. It was a morning like any other. Birds called through the canopy. Tyrannosaurs stalked in silence. Sauropods stirred dust as they moved. No one knew. No creature sensed that the sky was falling. Then a flash came, followed by a white light brighter than the sun. And in that instant, everything changed. 66 million years ago, a rock from space, 10 kilometers wide, struck the Earth near what we now call the Yucatan Peninsula. It hit with the force of 10 billion atomic bombs. The Earth didn't just shake, it screamed. Shockwaves traveled across continents, tsunamis swallowed shorelines, magma erupted through new cracks, and wildfires consumed forests from pole to pole. Then came the ash. The skies turned black. For months, maybe years. No sunlight, no warmth, no photosynthesis. The plants died. Then the herbivores and the predators. It was not the fire, it was the famine. And the mighty fell. The age of the dinosaurs was over. 75% of all life gone. The ocean floor littered with bones. The land empty of footsteps. And yet, life did not give up, because endings are just new beginnings. In the cracks, in the shadows, in burrows deep beneath the earth, something small survived. Mammals, not yet kings, not yet dominant, just survivors. They had lived underfoot for millions of years, scurrying beneath the feet of giants. Nocturnal, cautious, and quick. And now, the world was theirs to inherit. They adapted, they grew. Some returned to the trees, some stayed low. Some grew fangs, others grew minds. Slowly, mammals diversified. Rodents, bats, whales, elephants, apes. The planet, once ruled by thunderous feet, now echoed with quiet steps and intelligence. Earth had reset, but not erased. Life is stubborn, it doesn't stop. It transforms. 5 times now, mass extinctions have nearly ended it all. And yet, every time, life has come back, different, stronger, and more aware. That is Earth's secret. Not just life, but renewal, and in time. From the lineage of survivors came a new species. Curious, clever, and restless. They carved tools, tamed fire, and told stories. And one day, they looked up and asked, "Where did we come from?" This is where we step into the story. Finally, shall we begin our chapter? Let us know in the comment section how you feel about this mysterious story, because next we step into the most astonishing part of life. Earth had been ruled by giants, by teeths and terror, but now, something smaller was rising, something quieter, not faster, not stronger, not covered in armor or hidden by camouflage. What they had was a mind, and that changed everything. Our story begins in Africa, in the cradle of life, among the branches and shadows. We were primates, cousins of chimpanzees, sharing forests and sharing DNA. But one lineage stepped down from the trees and stood up. They didn't become humans overnight. It took millions of years, and step by step, they became us. First came walking, then hands, not just for climbing, but for making. Then the spark of something that had never existed before, imagination. Imberde, we shaped stones, not just by accident, but with purpose, to hunt, to defend, and to survive. These tools were simple, but their meaning was profound. We were thinking ahead, planning, dreaming, and inventing. With every tool, we rewrote the rules of nature. And then we tamed fire. Fire gave us warmth, protection, and light in the darkness, but it gave us something else too. Time. With fire, the night became ours. We sat around it, we shared food, and we shared stories. We were no longer just surviving. We were becoming humans. And then we painted, not just images, but symbols, meanings, and memory. On the walls of caves, we reached across time, telling the future what the past had seen. The animals we hunted, the gods we feared, and the stories we lived. This was not just art, it was the birth of culture. We remembered, we imagined, we became storytellers. But we didn't stay in one place. We wandered across deserts, through forests, and over frozen plains. Africa was home, but curiosity pulled us outward into Asia, across Europe, over land bridges into the Americas, and down into the islands of the Pacific. We were not just survivors, we were explorers. Every step we took changed the world, and the world changed us as well. As we spread across the earth, we adapted skin, hair, eyes, height, and shape. Not because we were separate species, but because we were sculpted by the sun, the snow, the jungle, and the mountains. We are one species, but we are many expressions. Look around. Every face tells a story, a journey, a place, and a survival. But look closer, and something remarkable reveals itself. We are all the same species, same bones, same brain, same blood. The differences you see are not separations, they are adaptation. Our species was born in the sun. In Africa, where the UV rays are strongest, our ancestors evolved dark skin, not for beauty, not for labels, for protection. Melanin, the pigment in our skin, is a natural shield. It guards against UV damage. It preserves vital nutrients like folate, essential for fetal development. It was evolution's answer to an unforgiving sun. In those days, darker skin wasn't a statement. It was armor. But we didn't stay. We journeyed to colder places, to lands with less sunlight, where long winters stole the warmth of the sun. And the very thing that once protected us became a disadvantage. Our bodies needed sunlight to make vitamin D, and dark skin blocked it. So in these new climates, skins slowly lightened. Generations after generations, these changes occur not to divide, but to adapt. Not everything came from genes. We adapted culturally too: clothing, shelter, tools, and even diet. Inuit people didn't need light skin. They got vitamin D from fish and blubber. Maasai warriors developed long limbs, but lived with dark skin in harmony with their sun-drenched environment. Every human being alive today, all 8 billion of us, came from the same small group that walked out of Africa roughly 70,000 years ago. We are 99.9% genetically identical. That's not a metaphor. That's science. The tiny 0.1% difference gave us jazz, gave us languages, and gave us beauty in infinite form. One species, many expressions, all woven into the same story. And as we spread across the earth, we began to build stone circles, temples that aligned to stars and cities that vanished beneath jungles and seas. And not all of our past was remembered. Much of it was forgotten. This place was never meant to be found. Hidden beneath dirt for 10,000 years, built by hands we didn't think existed, before writing, before wheels, and even before agriculture. And yet, they carved stories into stones. Not tribes, not wanderers, builders. Welcome to Göbekli Tepe, a temple that shattered history books because it wasn't supposed to exist. We thought we knew the order of things. First came farming, then cities, then temples. But Göbekli Tepe rewrote that narrative. It was built nearly 12,000 years ago, 7,000 years before the pyramids, 6,000 years before Stonehenge. These people were not supposed to build monuments. They were supposed to be hunter-gatherers, nomads, transient. But these circles of stone say otherwise. They gathered, they carved, they worshipped, and then they buried it all. But Göbekli Tepe is not alone. Across the world, there are places that shouldn't be there. Ancient cities beneath the sea, near Dwarka in India, stone roads off the coast of Yonaguni in Japan, pyramids lost in the Amazon, swallowed by green silence. We don't even know how old they are. Some say thousands of years. Others whisper tens of thousands. Life on Earth is not a chain. It's a symphony. Forests are the lungs of our planet. And right now, they are gasping. One football field of forest lost every second. Rivers silting and soil dying, all for timber, cattle, palm oil, and profit. It's not just ecological, it's spiritual. We are not just cutting trees, we are cutting ties to the living world. Together we can control deforestation. Kindly subscribe to Mysterious History to stay tuned on my next video. Thanks for watching this video to the end.